It's very natural for us. I do this too, where I look at where I'm at right now and I compare myself to somebody that I admire. When you're in business for the first few years, you're going to be testing a lot of things. There's a lot of experimentation. A lot of the time people think about, I need to create content. Then you guys get focused on creating perfect content to the point where you will be so focused on the process of creating perfect content that you lose your personality and your perspective in the journey. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this publicly. Hey there, I am so excited to be tuning in today. I've been battling between two topics to discuss in this episode. So if you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jerisha Hawk. I am a business coach and I help industry experts document and unpack their intellectual property so that they can launch and grow profitable leverage group coaching programs. And the few areas in which we specialize in are high ticket $3,000 to $10,000 offers and really growing your business with organic marketing. The first topic that I was thinking about is how to keep your expenses low as you're growing beyond $1 million. And there's different things that you can be doing operationally in the business so that you can keep your expenses low while you're growing your top line revenue so that you can be maintaining a healthy profit margin. So one is keeping expenses low. The second topic that I was thinking about today is what gives you competitive advantage in the marketplace. And I was going to go through 4 or 5 different things that give you competitive advantage in our very saturated and highly sophisticated. So what gives you competitive advantage as an online coach? I just want you to think about, what do you currently think gives you competitive advantage? What's the first thing that comes to mind, your gut reaction? When I used to think about competitive advantage, especially when I was first starting my business, my idea of a competitive advantage was purely about my work. Can I deliver the work? Is there excellence in my work? Is there quality in my work? I used to only think about the effort that I put in. And now that I've been in business for 5 years and my viewpoint on competitive advantage has heavily evolved. It really has evolved. I was like Denitra Scott. She said access to me. I used to think that my competitive advantage is how much access that somebody had to me. That's really how I used to think about competitive advantage. And I think when you think about competitive advantage only based off of accessibility to you, you're thinking about competitive advantage from a very limited scope. And I think it's a valid place to start. I started, I see Denitra Scott. She was very similar to me. That's what her response was in the chat. That's where a lot of us start. I've been talking a lot with my team recently about race, about ethnicity, about racism, about systematic racism, about the system, about society, and about how many of us as women of color, how we were conditioned as children and how we are conditioned through society. If you are of color, and usually if you're a woman, there's a level of conditioning that all of us innately get built into us about what gives us competitive advantage. Growing up, the thing that I was always taught that was constantly reinforced is that you have to work twice as hard to get paid half as much. So there was this underlying principle that I used to think that the only way for me to advance was for me to outwork my competition, because there was a level of privilege I wasn't born into. So I couldn't leverage that privilege to my benefit to advance me. I had to outwork my competition. I had to be smarter, be quicker, be faster, be perfect, be no mistakes. That was how I thought about competitive advantage. If you make a mistake, you're going in the reverse on the advancement token. You have to jump higher, you got to run quicker, you have to be more creative. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this publicly, but the thing that I have noticed is that, guys, if you are somebody who was taught or raised in that manner, where that was your mentality or your mindset, I want to let you know already, your work ethic is already on a higher level. And that's actually an advantage that you can use to your benefit now that you're later in life. When you think about that resilience, that grit, that effort, that excellence mentality that you had, and especially if it actually did advance you in your career or advance you financially, that's a skill set now that you will never unlearn. The first thing of competitive advantage is realizing that the things in which I used to look at it as a bad thing. I'm like, why I gotta work so hard to be noticed? Why do I have to feel as if I have to be this level of on in order to be in the room? And I used to look at it from a very negative lens. But I think the first area of competitive advantage that I want us all to think about is that level of inner resourcefulness that you have been developing over the decades that you've been in the workforce. That is an area of competitive advantage that sets the tone for everything else that I'm going to talk about. Inner resourcefulness is the first area of competitive advantage that will differentiate you from everybody else in the marketplace. And also, kind of on that topic that I said I wanted to talk about, that will allow you to reduce your expenses as you grow your business. That inner resourcefulness, that ability, that innate ability to get resourceful versus thinking that you have to buy resources. There's two different types of people when they grow businesses. And I think there's stages in which we grow through. If I'm the type of business owner that every time I have a problem? Do I think that I need to go get more resources, buy more resources, spend more money to get more resources, to get a new strategy, to hire 4 more team members, thinking that I need to buy 3 more courses? Do I think I need to go get more resources? Or am I the type of business owner, the type of CEO who has a mentality of how can I get more resourceful? How can I get more resourceful? Those are not the same thing. And I think that's the first area of competitive advantage that we can all sharpen and work on, is that how can I get more resourceful versus thinking that I need to go get more resources. So that's the first area of competitive advantage. And that's like a twofer. That's something that will also allow you to decrease your expenses as you grow your business, being resourceful. The second thing that gives you competitive advantage as an online coach is your ability to niche down. Well, the coaching industry started back in like the 70s or 80s. So our coaching industry has been in existence now for 40 years or so. We're going on 50. And when we think about the sophistication of the industry as a whole, how it has been evolving, we're noticing that a level of specificity is required if you want to have competitive advantage and differentiate yourself from others in the space. And what I mean by that is when I talk about specificity, it's you really drilling down and curating the design of your product for a very specific person at a very specific moment in time in that person's journey. And I talk about this probably on every episode that I ever do, the importance of articulating your value, the importance of having a program promise, the importance of specializing and niching down. And when I think about competitive advantage, a comparison that I want to share with you is I want you to think about in corporate America. When you are trying to advance in your career, when you're trying to go from individual contributor to middle management to senior management to the executive suite, what happens as you rise? As you rise in your role, you become more specialized in your title and in your role and responsibility. You may have a wide breadth of understanding of how the organization works in whole, but there's one area of expertise that you have really dialed in and honed in on. And there's one area of specialization. The more specialized and nuanced you are, the more in demand you become, the more difficult it is to replace that talent. And fundamentally, you get paid more. I was just talking with my mentor from corporate America, and he recently retired, and he was over operations. He had a specialty in operations, specifically in energy, which is what gave him competitive advantage for so many years in his career. When we think about business, sometimes when people are stepping into the online space, we feel this as if that we need to solve every problem that we know how to solve. And we end up overcomplicating and over-convoluting our business model. We try to build a business model that requires too many marketing strategies for it to function properly. We try to sell too many low ticket and too many high ticket when we don't have capacity to market multiple offers effectively. Every time one offer isn't working, what do? We reinvent and then reintroduce a new one, and we end up having 4, 5, 7 different offers under our suite. And we notice that the complexity of the business model, it becomes the bottleneck in our ability to grow. And the more that you can specialize and the more that you can simplify your offers and the problem that you solve for a specific person at a specific moment in time in their journey, that gives you competitive advantage. Because the more simple your business model is, the more refined your delivery mechanism is, the more niche that you are serving and supporting the client. But guess what that garners you? That gives you speed. I want you to think about if you only had to sell one offer that you have that's currently the most profitable, and you cut out everything else in your business. Yes, it might scare you at first, but I want you to think how much simpler your day-to-day becomes. If all of your effort had to be doubled down, it's like dating, y'all. I ain't gonna sit here and hold you up. When I was in college, I had a starting 5. Your girl had a roster. I had different guys for different activities. I had a full roster that I'd be dating. I'm not gonna hold you up. My husband is aware of this. You know how hard it was to juggle multiple calendars, multiple personalities, multiple interest lists, who was taking me out on what date? It was difficult. I learned very quickly. I'm like, I don't want to be a player no more. No, I don't. Why? I do crush a lot. I used to crush a lot. But why was that? Because it is difficult. If you try to please multiple human beings who got multiple interests, who got multiple objectives, I don't know about y'all, but it was tough for me. Now I look at myself with my husband. I got one man. Guess how much energy and attention I can give to learning his preferences, to understanding his desires, to working through our past trauma so we can grow together. It's just one person. That's all I gotta worry about. What's his ebb and flow? How do we work together? I'm just being funny, but it's real. It's the same thing is true in business. And I want you guys to think about the most successful businesses all have a niche, regardless of what in the pricing spectrum they are on. McDonald's has a niche. It is fast food. You think burger, fries, and Coke when you think of McDonald's. It is niche. When you think of Burger King, guess what? They also have a niche. They got the Whopper. They known for the Whopper. They known for their thick fries. When you think about Tesla, it is a niche. So regardless of the price point, if it's low ticket, entry level, they're serving the masses in its volume, or if they're high ticket, serving I don't want to call it elite, it's more of a value-based game. Guess what? They both have niches. When I go into a restaurant that is trying to sell me everything, like we got Mexican on the menu, we got Italian on the menu, boo. We have American on the menu and we do French, and there's like 7 pages to the menu. I'm like, pause. There ain't no way there's a chef in the back who's competent, but who is delivering a level of quality for every one of these items. I'm spending some time on this because your second area of competitive advantages was one, your ability, your innate resourcefulness, you being resourceful. The second area of competitive advantage is you having a specific niche. So the second level of competitive advantage is deciding what is the specific problem that you are going to solve for a specific person at a specific moment in time in that person's journey, because that allows you to double down and get very granular. That's creating a commitment of marriage to the marketplace in which you are serving. The third area of competitive advantage is simplification. The simpler your business model is, the faster and more streamlined you can produce quality results, repeatable expectations, and deliver on those expectations over and over and over again. I think the biggest thing where I notice people go wrong in this journey of navigating this is that they do not honor the season of business they are in. It's very natural for us, I do this too, where I look at where I'm at right now and I compare myself to somebody that I admire, or I compare myself to one of my mentors, and I try to start evolving where I see that they are versus focusing on the evolution of where I am right now. That's normal when we get off kilter. That's normal when we start, no longer are we getting competitive, but we start getting into this comparison advantage. Well, she looks like this, so I have to do that. Or I see them doing this, so I have to do that. That's comparison advantage. And there really is no advantage to you in the long term for you to be operating out of that lens or out of that focal point. You want to maintain what's your competitive advantage. Your competitive advantage, I truly believe, and this has been true for me in my journey, or when I think about the hundreds of clients that we've worked with, is you have to focus on what your season of business that you're in, what your capacity is at your season of business, and what will give you the most momentum for where you are right now, based off of what you can execute and what you have capacity to do and to do well. So that third aspect of competitive advantage is simplification of your business model. Having a simple business model on the back end will give you competitive advantage. And I've noticed this every time I've had a really massive growth spurt in my business. That growth spurt usually came right after I cut something from the business model. So when I was growing the business from $0 to $150,000, I was figuring things out. I was trying to figure out what my offer was going to be that was going to be able to really help me make more money. But when I think about every time I was able to advance in my business financially, it was because I normally cut dead weight from the business first. I simplified the business model. So when I was growing from $0 to $150,000, I had a membership that was $37 a month. I had PDFs that I was trying to do. I had one-on-one coaching. I tried to do a course. Then I started introducing a high ticket group program. And I was trying to do a lot of things. The thing that I cut was my low ticket membership, because I realized I don't have a large enough audience and I don't want to focus on building a large audience before I can make money. So I cut the low ticket membership. I cut everything that was less than $3,000. I sold private one-on-one coaching, and I launched a small group program for 5 people that was $6,000 at the time. Guess what? Me cutting one offer allowed me to get to $150,000. I was stuck for 9 months trying to sell this low ticket membership when a membership model did not make sense for the season of business that I was in and for the capacity and the resources I had available. I cut the thing that was losing weight, even though I was afraid, because before I was in comparison advantage. I was looking at people who were much further along in me than business, who had much more capital, much more resource, much more existing perception, who had membership that that look successful. And it seems like the cheap way in is the easy way in, but I learned very quickly, no, it's not. Selling a $37 offer requires just as much effort and work as selling a $3,700 offer. Don't let nobody tell you different. When people are like, oh, it's passive income, girl, you're not going to have to do anything. Lies, lies, lies. There's so much work you have to do to set up the funnel. There's so much work you have to do to test and tweak that funnel. There's so much work that you have to do to build that product. There's so much work that you have to do administratively once the product is out in the marketplace, dealing with customer support, refund requests, returns. How do I log into my portal? And there's a lot of work to do to continuously get enough leads to make that $37 offer make enough money to cover your bills. Effort is always required. Just because you didn't have to have a conversation with somebody to get the close does not mean that it is passive. Everything that you sell is active. And if you are not actively selling, I guarantee you're not actively making as much money as you desire. There was a level of action and effort involvement that had to go in. So when I was growing from 0 to 100K, I let go of the idea that I was going to sell low ticket, and I let go of my membership. And that allowed me to double down and focus on the thing that was actually generating money, my private one-on-one coaching and my first small group program. I had 2 offers. So either you hire me privately one-on-one or you join my group program. That got me to 150K. That allowed me to replace my corporate salary as an engineer. That allowed me to comfortably quit my job. Now I was doing private one-on-one and I had this small group coaching program. I was like, okay, what am I going to do to get to 300 grand? Guess what I did? I cut both of those offers and I designed one leveraged offer based off of the processes that I was noticing patterns of for my private one-on-one and my small group. And I created Services That Sell. Services That Sell was my first main leveraged offer that I had. And guess what that did? That got me from 150 grand to $330,000 in revenue. I cut those 2 offers. I repackaged them into one core offer. Now I only had to focus on selling one thing. That got me to $300,000. Are you guys noticing the theme here? When I got to $300,000, I was like, what will get me to $1 million? I took the lessons learned from the Services That Sell program, and I also made a decision about what's the direction that I want to take my business model. I noticed that I really enjoy and I'm really good at selling high ticket, and I really like working with that caliber of client. I like solving a more sophisticated problem because it produces bigger results, which I would rather work with a fewer people getting bigger results than working with a few people who maybe never finished the program. And that was a decision that I made. And I talk about the nuances of that in another episode over on the podcast and on my IGTV, so you guys can go watch that another day. But what I did at 300 grand to get me to $1 million is cut Services That Sell, and I launched Leverage. And Leverage was my main program that I sell now, that 5-figure investment that helps either people who are booked out with private one-on-one or maybe done for you agency owners who want to transition into group coaching. And we help them raise their rates, articulate their value, and launch a curriculum-based $3,000 to $10,000 group coaching program. And when I cut Services That Sell, we've been double downing on Leverage. That's what allowed us to get beyond $1 million. So I say all this to say there was transition in releasing these offers, but that third area of competitive advantage is simplification. When you can simplify your business model, it simplifies everything else operationally. And that goes into the fourth area of competitive advantage is your processes give you competitive advantage in the marketplace. Kind of piggybacking on what I was just sharing here, when you start simplifying the offers that you sell, if you're making less than $1 million a year, I truly believe that you need to have 1 at max 2 offers is enough to get you to $1 million. And that's what I would do. I would build one core offer and get me to 300 grand. And then I would pause and evaluate to see, okay, if I double down on this, will it take me to $1 million, or does something else need to be introduced? But you really only need 1 to 2 offers max to get you to $1 million. And if you're stuck right now, maybe you're realizing your revenue's been plateaued for a couple of years, or you just feel like you're stalled for a longer period of time than you know that you should be. First place I would tell you to look is how many things are you selling, and how complex is your current business model, and where can you either be repackaging existing things into one offer, or where do you need to cut something? Have you ever played Ninja Fruit? All this fruit is dropping from the sky and you just keep cutting it. You got to play Ninja Fruit with your business sometimes and get rid of things that are not profitable, taking up too much energy or capacity, and are not generating revenue for the business. So the fourth area of competitive advantage is your processes. And when I want you guys to think about process, the first process that I want you to think about if you're a coach is your curriculum. Your curriculum is the most valuable asset to your coaching business. Why? Because if you can design a repeatable process in the form of documented frameworks, in the form of you unpacking your intellectual property into trainings, frameworks, curriculum for your program, that will be the most valuable asset of your business. If you are a coaching business, you need to have a process that will allow your clients to repeatedly get the result that you are promising them when they pay to join. Because I think that is a process that many people skip over. You do not need to be documenting any process in the business. I think that's the first process you should worry about documenting. And that process has taken me at least a year, sometimes 2 years, to really get to a level of perfection that I'm really proud of. And I think that's something else to think about. If you're not willing to sell one offer for more than 2 years, you're not even in the game long enough yet to have competitive advantage, because that even gives you competitive advantage. Maybe that's the fifth thing of competitive advantage. Selling one thing for more than 3 years gives you competitive advantage. Why? Because most people in the online industry, one, don't even last 3 years. So if you're still in business after 3 years in the online space, you're starting to be perceived as an OG because you've outlasted most people in the space. But the second thing is that now you can build up brand recognition that, like, oh, when I think about Jermaine, I think about nonprofit accounting. When I think about Currently Carrington, I think about influencers and how to get more paid partnerships at being an influencer. When I think about Keisha Hicks, I think about HR career advancement, HR career coach. And the reason being is that I can now associate what it is that you do because you've been doing it long enough to build up association. Sometimes a competitive advantage is just sticking with doing something long enough so that you can build a reputation around what it is that you do. The fourth area of, I just said, competitive advantage is your curriculum. Designing a documented process that allows your client to get the results that you are promising them over and over and over and over again. You have to think about your curriculum like most of these other businesses think about their assembly line. Or when you think about a franchise, Starbucks, McDonald's, how do they make the recipe? How do they get the coffee to taste the exact same no matter what store you go into? How do they make the French fries taste as delicious as they do from McDonald's to McDonald's? And your curriculum is that same recipe that allows you to deliver to your clients what it was that you promised in a repeatable and expected manner. So when I say documenting your processes and your processes give you competitive advantage, I want to specify this because a lot of times people think processes is over convolute the idea of what a process is. And I think a lot of the time, this is an error that I made as I've been growing my business, is I was trying to document processes for things that I had not yet proven. If it's not proven to work, there's nothing to document. And I think when you're in business for the first few years, you're going to be testing a lot of things. There's a lot of experimentation. So you don't even know what the process is because you don't even know what your preferences are. And if you haven't even tested it yet to know whether or not it works, what I really struggled with in the beginning of my business, and I even have to catch myself now as I'm growing my team, is that, Jay, there's nothing to document yet. You don't even know if it works yet. So don't spend all this effort, energy, money, resource documenting processes that have not yet been proven to be repeatable to deliver the result that was expected. So in the first few years of your business, the only process that you really need to develop is your curriculum. Refining how you get client results, refining how you teach your clients, how your clients navigate your curriculum in order to get the outcome that you promised them at the forefront. And how do you do that better, faster, quicker, smoother for your clients with less dependency on you? I used to get so caught up documenting the process for how do we respond to emails. And it's like, girl, is that process making you money right now? No. You don't even know what your preferences are yet. So don't worry about over documenting processes. The only processes that you need to document are the ones that have been proven to produce the output that was expected. And the only processes that you need to document are the things that you repeatedly do in your business. I used to get caught up because I'd be like, well, I know that I see other people have these processes, so clearly I need to have them. But if that's not true for what you're actively doing in your business right now, there's no point in you documenting something, because then you're wondering what's the next step. You don't know what the next step is because you haven't figured it out yet. You're still figuring out that process. So that's the fourth competitive advantage, is your process, but particularly the curriculum that you design to get your clients the result that you promised. And the fifth area of competitive advantage is selling one thing for long enough, longevity, maintaining consistency around one thing for a long period of time. Those are the 5 areas of competitive advantage that I think really differentiate you, really allow you to grow exponentially. And I think when you can focus on those things, it allows you to grow sustainably, where you can actually maintain the growth that you are experiencing. The 6th thing I'm going to give you guys a bonus, a competitive advantage, is publicly sharing your perspective. A lot of the time people think about, I need to create content. Then you guys get focused on creating perfect content to the point where you will be so focused on the process of creating perfect content that you lose your personality and your perspective in the journey, in the delivery. The sixth area, this is a bonus for you, of competitive advantage in the marketplace is sharing your perspective publicly. Having an opinion and being willing to show up and share that opinion publicly. That gives you competitive advantage all day, every day. Because at the end of the day, people are not paying for your perfection. People are paying for your perspective. When you're selling intellectual property, which if you are a coach, you are selling your intellectual property. You're sharing your perspective about how to go about getting a particular result for a very particular person. You're sharing and people are paying for your intellectual property, which is your documented processes. It's your approach to being able to get the result that you help your clients get. That is what differentiates you. So if you're unwilling to share your perspective publicly and you're selling intellectual property, you have to be sharing your perspective. And I think that's the best type of content that you need to be focused on creating. Am I sharing my perspective? Am I communicating my beliefs around this? Am I willing to be confrontational? Because I'm going to say, I believe this might be better than this under these conditions or under these constraints. And yes, some people may not agree with it. That's 100% okay. Why? Because there's more than one way to do a lot of things. But you have to be willing to advocate for yourself and advocate for your position in the marketplace. You have to advocate for yourself in the form of articulating your value, and articulation of your value starts with you being able to willing to share your perspective publicly. So those are my 6 areas of competitive advantage that I think really do differentiate you in the online coaching space and allow you to create demand for yourself and allow you to position yourself to be able to charge higher ticket for whatever it is that you're selling. The 7th area of competitive advantage that might be helpful for you guys to think about is that the more that you invest in yourself, that is competitive advantage. If you are in coaching programs, and I love group coaching programs because now you have access to a network of other like-minded individuals who are also solving similar problems as you, who might be figuring out things faster than you do that you can learn from. You being able to avoid a mistake is competitive advantage. You being able to bounce back after you've had a downfall gives you competitive advantage. You being in these group programs, if they make you more buoyant, if they help you bounce back quicker, if they give you access to relationships and friendships that become your business besties, where you have a cheerleading squad to motivate you, to encourage you, to uplift you, that is competitive advantage. I'm a big believer that if whoever is leading you is dripped in favor, that favor overflows. I know that I'm operating out of obedience. I take my responsibility of being obedient spiritually so heavy. It's because I know that whatever favor I got on me is going to overflow to anybody around me. And I believe that true with people that I am around. I want to be around people who have favor on their life. I want to be around people who are spiritually aligned with whatever they believe in. I don't care what they believe in. They can believe in whatever they want to believe in, but they got to be spiritually aligned with whatever they're supposed to be doing. Because obedience, you will get favor on your life and that favor will overflow. And honey, I'm trying to catch the favor too. If you want to be investing in somebody who's investing in themselves, like my clients, the way that I give and the way that I support and the way that I coach my clients is not coming just from what I know. It's coming from the wide network of investing that I do. And I invest easily $200,000 a year in coaching for myself. And the more money that I make, the more money that I spend on investing in myself. What does that do? One, a lot of my clients don't have access to some of the rooms that I'm in because they're not at a place in business yet to get invited in those rooms. Two, think about how much extra value that is for my clients. If I'm sharpening my skills, if I'm emotionally aware, if I'm going to therapy and taking care of myself, if I'm in these rooms with 7, 8, 9-figure coaches, I can share those lessons learned and infuse those into my conversations with my clients. It's competitive advantage because their peers aren't doing it. Their peers may not have access to that level of information, insight, or different perspective in the marketplace. The thing that I'm saying is that regardless of what industry you're in, these attributes of competitive advantage I think are still valid no matter what. And you have to think about, okay, how do I apply those things to my industry? How do I make those things applicable for me? And that's a 7th thing of competitive advantage. Who you're being coached by, the rooms that you're in, the community that you are surrounding yourself with is major competitive advantage. Because if you are building a business and you don't have a community, if you don't have people that you can go to be like, I'm struggling right now, if you don't have a support system that you can go to that you can be inspired by, that's going to hinder your ability to advance. A lot of my friends that I grew up with, they don't do what I do. I had to find my community online. And a lot of the friends that I met in other paid programs that I participated in. So anytime I'm making an investment in a coaching program, I'm never just looking looking at how much does this cost? I'm looking at how well curated is this community? Is the community diverse? Because I don't want to just be learning from a bunch of white people. That's the only perspective that I'm getting. I know that when I'm in a culturally diverse room with different ethnic backgrounds, I'm going to get a wider range of perspective that will give me competitive advantage. Because I'm learning from people, how people approach problem solving, how people are thinking about creativity from different ways, because they have different ways of thinking. It gives you competitive advantage because it's a different perspective than what everybody else is probably doing. I'm going to hop off, but I'm really glad that you guys tuned in today, and I will talk to y'all later. Have a great day, y'all. If you liked the video you just watched, click this one. You might like it even more. Go ahead, check it out.